Hello my friends, this is Sonia Showalter. I am experimenting, and if this works well, then this will be a video that I can release. So this is my little Nutcracker. I stitched it on this flour sack towel. It was just a scrap towel that I was using for all kinds of stuff, and so I used a large enough section of it to stitch it out. It can be a nice piece of linen. I just didn't want to experiment with a nice piece of linen. I've stitched it the way I do every other project, stitched on a woven fabric, pressed and starched and pressed and starched until the fabric is nice and stiff and smooth. I hooped the fabric just like always, but once it was stitched and I pressed it again after the stitching, then I sprayed the back of it with some spray glue. I'll link it below if it still exists. It's a really old can I have. You could probably use embroidery spray adhesive. Like I said, I'm experimenting, so we'll see if it stays stuck once I do what I'm going to do to this. I have these little very thin wood cutouts I ordered from Amazon, and I'll link these below. These are meant to be hung like little plaques from the holes here, and I couldn't find any that didn't have holes, but I don't think that's going to be a problem with the way I'm going to be doing this project. So I just thought this was really pretty, and wouldn't that be so pretty hanging on the wall or standing on a little tabletop easel, you know, a little decorative one of some kind. I just think there's a lot of potential here. And I had to order this particular size because the others were too short. They were 6 inches tall, and this one is actually, I think, 8 tall. He's 6 inches tall, 6.3 I think. So that the 8, I think it works out fine, I think. It looks like he's a little too far to the, yeah, he's not quite in the middle. I thought I had done that very carefully. So I'm going to reposition him. That's why that spray glue is pretty nice, because you can reposition. All right, I went away and actually marked my centers. So I put a little mark where the exact center is of my plaque and up here. So now what I'm doing is, and I placed my long ruler from here to the tip of his hat right there, so I could find the center. So I could, and I marked it way up here because that's not going to show. So I can kind of see, you may not be able to see, but I can see through the fabric. And if I couldn't see through the fabric and I were not doing this for a video, I could turn this around so I could be facing it from this end and match it up. Same from here, match it up. But I think that's it. All right, so I had that glue in the back. I'm going to go get that can. All right, this is what I used. This is really old. I hardly ever use it. It was sent to me by mistake when I had ordered embroidery spray. And I think this is also temporary because it's for textiles and screen printing. I'm sure not to put things together permanently, but just to hold them in place while you work with them. So, but if I find something the equivalent, or you may already have something, just use that. We'll see if this actually sticks the way I hope. We'll see what happens to the fabric when it becomes moist. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to run my nail along the edge of the frame. They put a stain on the edge of this, which I'm not crazy about because it comes off. But it's not going to matter because of what I'm doing here. So I'm just doing this so I can see where the edges are. And it'll help the fabric to kind of bend to the shape of the cutout, of the wood shape. Okay. I would assume that linen will do the same thing when you do this. I don't think it's going to be a real serious issue once you see what I'm going to be doing. All right, this is not going to be like very meticulously cut. It's going to be, I'm going to cut it as close as I can. But it's basically so that we can get this edge, this excess cut away. And still conform to the shape of the wood. Maybe I'll do it from the back. Like I said, I'm experimenting. I haven't rehearsed this. You could trace it onto the fabric if you wanted to. Take the plaque off, cut it, and then put it back on. Maybe that's easier, but trying to match it back up, I'm not sure that that's going to be the way I want to do this. So I'll just beat it into submission here because I don't want to have to match all four corners of this after it's been cut. So I want it to be in place already. This is rough cutting. It's not precise, and because I don't think that's going to matter once I get this treated the way I'm intending to. If this doesn't work out, you'll never know this video existed. So I think now what I want to do, well, let me just see what happens with this. So I got this Spackle because I think this is going to work for what I need, but I don't know how fast it sets and if I'm going to be sorry to put this on before I glue those edges down. I'm hoping I don't have to glue the edges down. I'm hoping to just be able to put this on around the edges and have it be its own glue. Let me see. This is not as wet as I had thought it was going to be. Okay, so now, note to self, be careful you don't drop this on your embroidery. This is really powdery. I hadn't expected it to be like that. I thought it was more like a putty. But it looks like it might work fine. I think I'm going to use my finger. I may pause this and glue the other edges down first so I don't have to battle with them. Okay, I'm going to cover it up because I don't want it drying while I'm doing something else. But I'm liking it. I'm liking this. think it's going to be okay. It's not so wet that, which is one of my concerns. I thought it might be so wet that it would start soaking into the fabric and leave stains and stuff. All right, this is what I have that I wasn't really impressed with this, just so you know. It's supposed to be fast grab tacky glue. It didn't work that way. It feels like Elmer's glue, which I have a gallon of. I didn't return it, but let's see if it has thickened up as it sat on the shelf for the last few months. Let's see if this does anything other than soak in the fabric. Or soak into the fabric. Oh, it's thickened up a little bit, just being old, getting older. All right, so I'm going to use this to hold those edges down for me. But I think Elmer's glue will do the same, so you don't have to buy yourself a bottle of this. I do have my favorite glue, which is the Fabri-Tac, which is really thick and sets almost immediately. But it's so thick, and to do this, it's overkill. So I just want this to grab. Okay, I think that's pretty good. So that's not bad glue for this then, after it's been sitting for several months. Actually, I think I've had it for a year, sitting there doing nothing, so it got a little thick. All right, so this is already kind of set, so I can proceed. All right. Now, I didn't plug these holes. If you're going to do something different where you can see through the fabric, I would have put some of this in the holes so the holes wouldn't look like this. I don't know if you can see it, but you can kind of see, like, it looks like a couple of round spots in the fabric. It's just the holes in the plaque. So this is really interesting texture because it's like powdery, and maybe it's a little dry on top, and that's what the problem is. I'm going to get some from down inside instead of that top layer. Not familiar with it, so I'm not sure if that's what it's supposed to be. It's just so dry. But we want it to look like this. Like a painting, kind of like, I don't know, old house, old piece of art you came across in the attic. Try not to get that on my embroidery. And I'm putting it on kind of thin, not too thick, just enough to have texture, and so that I can kind of see the fabric underneath. And in this case, maybe we are thinking of it like seeing the canvas, if you will, underneath. I feel like Bob Ross, my happy little Nutcracker. Hope I'm staying in in view, within frame. I would hold this up closer to you, but I'm putting pressure on it, so I'm afraid of dropping it. Just pressing it. Okay, so if you get some on the embroidery, I would say don't try to wipe it off or anything. Just get a pin or something very small to flick it off there with. I think this is pretty good. I think this would make such a pretty gift. And like I said, maybe it's a little big for the tree. I don't know. I would hang that on a tree. I think I need to get a little closer to his feet. I'll get a little more. You don't want to get too much. Now that you're doing details, you don't want a huge glob on there. And you're just kind of pressing and wiping away. And the more you wipe away, of course, the more the fabric will show underneath. And you don't want to have like a line outlining, you know, like a perimeter, defined perimeter around your project. It's almost like I'm carving around him, but without making a boundary, creating a boundary. And of course, this is like pure white. And the fabric that it's stitched on is more of a creamy, slightly to the yellow. So it's going to show, whoops, see, I don't have a good grip. There's going to be slight contrast between the plaster and the fabric, which is a good thing. So you might consider that, what you're going to stitch on, and how that's going to contrast with the white. Maybe you want it to be snow white, you know, snow white fabric and snow white plaster, and maybe, you know, I don't know, do something with little snowflakes, I don't know, paper snowflakes, and work them in, just your imagination. But this is what I was thinking of. I think that's kind of cool. I'm going to add a little more texture over here. And you can, you know, put holes in here somewhere, but I think what I'm going to do is find some little tiny eye hooks, I guess that's what they're called, and just, I don't know, this may be too thin. Maybe I'll just use, pins. And stick them through into the wood, and then use that to hang with. This doesn't weigh anything. So, all right, this stuff is just very weird feeling. Like it's wet, but it feels dry. And the other thing is, see how the edges are still dark? I might take some of my acrylic paints, you know, everybody has those, I think, and just paint the edges so they don't look dark. Oh, my coffee was a little strong today or something. Oh, I left a fingerprint here. All right, I am going to call this ready. Let it dry. Don't know how long it'll take. There's a little too much fabric showing right there, so I'll just use what's left on the knife, and perfect. It just looked like a straight line, and putting a little tiny bit there filled it in just perfect to just get rid of that straight edge, because I don't, and like right here, I don't know if you can see that. I'll just see if I can, there, perfect. Get rid of that straight edge. Too much fabric showing. And so subtle color difference between the fabric and the spackle might be the way to go, but you'll have to experiment on your own and see what looks good. I really like that. I think that is so cool. I'm glad I did this video at the same time, so I don't have to go back and do it all from scratch. But I really, really like this. And I am going to go ahead and paint the edges because this stuff is so fluffy and dry feeling. It just doesn't stick very well to that narrow edge. So I'll be back. Hello everyone. This is a day later. The plaster or the spackle has dried. And it feels good. It looks good. It looks like everything's gonna stay nice and flat. I wasn't sure how the fabric was gonna behave underneath all that moisture. I think paint your wood and get it ready, especially the back. Now that I'm this far along in the project, I think I would have plugged the holes and just painted everything white and the edges, and then I didn't have to mess with that while I'm waiting for the spackle to dry. Okay, so there you go. Lesson learned. Paint and prepare your wood so it looks pretty on the back. And you can always, if you don't want to paint the back, you could leave it or use pretty fabric on the back and just, but with this particular plaque, if it was a rectangular plaque, maybe that would be something you'd like to do. But I think these little edges just kind of complicate things. So it's all I could find that would fit my Nutcracker. But I did find some ovals that I ordered. And I will attempt this again with an oval. I mean, this is beautiful, but you might decide it's too big to hang on a tree. It would be beautiful in the tree anyway. You don't even have to hang it. You can just prop it up on a branch or something, which I've done before with like full-size tabletop angels I've put in my tree before. So really, there are no rules. And here's how I solved the hanging challenge. So these, I found some in my supplies because I mess with jewelry and do things with jewelry findings. So this is for jewelry. It's called an eye pin. For a second it's like, oh, okay, my mind just went somewhere else. It's called an eye pin. So what I decided, I was going to glue it in here, and I ended up doing, you have to kind of make a hole because these are soft. If you try to poke it in, it's going to bend. It's not like a nail. So I used my handy dandy. I'm going to take this away. Don't need that anymore. I just eyeballed it from the distance, an eighth or 3/8, 2/8, whatever, from the corner here. And I just made a hole. Just be careful not to stab yourself with this thing, because this thing is pretty painful if you poke yourself with it. All right, I feel the need to interject here because after doing all the footage for this video, and right as I was finishing my editing, I received some of the supplies I needed to just try them out to make sure I provided links to the right stuff. So the problem developed that when I tried to put a hole in these other plaques just to see how consistently they would perform compared to the previous one, to the one that I actually finished. It turns out that the wood will split, and it kind of poses a little bit of a risk in poking yourself. So one of them, the cracked, and the stylus went down, and it's like, wow, if I was holding this near my legs or something, I could have stabbed myself. So I want you to be very cautious if you do use this. But I think the difference between doing it on this dry wood like this and doing it on this, because it was so easy when I demonstrated it on this one. I've only made one of these, so that's all I have to go by. I think this worked really well because, first of all, the fabric is glued to the wood at the edge. So make sure that the edge is covered by the fabric, so don't cut the fabric too short. And so then I think the glue and the fabric, it's holding it all together, which allowed me to poke a hole in it without splitting the wood so easily. So I've already stitched another one of these because I love this so much. I want to make another one. And I want to do it a little more smoothly now that I've learned a few things in the process. But I just want you to be super careful. I think a safer way than using this awl, because this thing is like a pin, it's sharp, and then there's a handle behind it. So I don't want you to get hurt, okay? Don't hurt yourself. So here's the other alternative I think would be maybe a little better. It's just one of these pins with the little cone on it, and that gives you a better grip, and I think it's just as sharp as the awl, and then you have a place to just push it down with your thumb. If you split the wood and your hand goes too far, it's not going to cause a ton of damage. This thing is pretty wicked, so I just want you to be careful. If it turns out that poking a hole on the edge is going to be too inconsistent, let's say, the other thing you can do is once you finish, you could poke a hole. You can use this. Just put something underneath it so you don't poke a hole in your table or your mat or whatever. A piece of cardboard even, a couple of layers of cardboard. And if you just push down on this will go through this wood. I've already done it. And it's easy enough to go through the wood. And you can just work it in to widen the hole so that you can string whatever you're going to use. You can use wire even, poke the ends towards the back and do a little curlicue in the back and maybe a little corkscrew at the top. I think that would be adorable too. Just use your imagination, but I just wanted to interject here because I want you to be safe. I do not want to hear that you hurt yourself because of my instructions. So I'm just putting a big warning on that to be very cautious. All right, back to our show. Okay, so I'm going in gently but steadily. There, it's in pretty, I tried a sewing machine needle, but the needle is hard to handle because it's not like this tool has an actual place to grab it, and this actually worked pretty well. So I don't want to go too deep because when I put this in, I was going to put some glue in there, but I was trying it out to see if it was going to work. I cut it so that it was like maybe about that much. And I was going to put a little tiny bit of glue in there. But after I tried it out, I slipped it in there. And if your finger, you could use a thimble, or how did I do that? What did I press it in with? I'm not sure. I used my thumb. Maybe I did. Yeah, just cover it with something. It's kind of painful if you... let me see. I'll use this. Just whatever you have handy. And push it in. There you go. Or there I go. It's a little bit turned. But it turns out that's pretty secure. So I suppose you could put a drop of glue right there. This doesn't weigh anything, so it's not going to cause it to fall off the wall. I really would be shocked. I mean, I'm pulling firmly. I don't have a good grip, but I'm pulling firmly and it's not budging. So I think these are perfect. So I've linked some underneath that I ordered just to make sure they're the same kind. here's what I'm going to hang it with. I was going to use jute, but I don't know where my jute went, so I ordered some jute. And I had thought if I could find my jute, my cord, I would maybe, you know, roll it in a little bit of white paint, because I didn't want a brown jute on this. And I thought the paint would make it look rustic, you know, along the lines of how this looks. And then I realized, wait, I have some, you know how we save all kinds of stuff? Well, let me show you what I have here. This is actually 100% linen from my linen napkins that have the fringe where you pull the threads off the edge. Well, I just couldn't bear to throw this away, thinking that's gotta be good for something, because it's beautiful. It's beautiful thread, and it's 100% linen. So I thought about it and thought, you know, this might work really well to hang my little Nutcracker. So what I might do, not sure how much of this I can get through that eye, but if this, I think this will fit, I might just put a little glue on it just to make a point, maybe even a little water. By the way, I have a spray bottle here because I was checking on my spackle this morning, because I got to thinking, I wonder if it would be okay to add a tiny bit of water so that it's not so, oh, there it goes, just a little bit of water to get it through. Look at that. So I added a little bit of water just with a spray bottle. I didn't pour water in here. And it took it from moist and crumbly to buttery smooth, like soft butter. And so I was kind of afraid to do that yesterday, because I really have not ever used this before. So this will be great for snow and for doing this without it crumbling everywhere. I love it. So just wanted to add that in case you get the same spackle and it turns out to feel a little bit crumbly. So it wasn't dry, it was just moist, but it was crumbly, and that's why I was having trouble with it. But now I know better. Just moisten it a little bit and get it nice and buttery smooth. So here we go. Well, how I knot this will determine how it's going to show. Or maybe I want it in front. I don't know. But you get the idea. Not sure if this will be too long. If it is, I'll just pull it to where it looks good and trim it. So I think this is going to be a beautiful solution to these little thin plaques. So I'm going to untwist that. Look how beautiful. So I'm going to go ahead and tie it. Oops, now I got water on the mat. Okay, I'm going to put it right here where you can still see it. Tie it. And you don't need to tie a square knot, just a little one flip. Looks like it's plenty. I love this. I'm going to trim that. And I'll decide later what I'm going to do with the back. If I hang it on my wall, I'm going to call it done. If I were giving it as a gift, I would make it a little more special and write on the back, you know, with love from, you know, whoever. All right. I hope you enjoy this project. I hope you try it. And I will catch you on the next one. I'm going to be doing more of these in different shapes. So stay tuned for that. Don't forget to like and subscribe. That will support the channel and I would really appreciate it. Thank you, and see you in the next video.